The word erectile dysfunction. Go.
Humiliation.
Yeah.
Viagra.
Ashamed.
Yeah, embarrassment.
Embarrassment. Yeah.
Soft.
Oh, I love that. Truth. Hello there, lovers and friends. Today, I want to talk about something that 1 in 4 men will experience before the age of 30. Erectile dysfunction, aka ED, does not get discussed as much as it should, which is why today's video is all about covering it from a variety of different angles and perspectives. But in support of your time, if you came in search of a specific bit of information, check out these time codes. All right, so this is a cross-section view of the penis.
You might have an experience while you're having sex with someone where you get embarrassed.
You get made fun of and teased about and joked around with.
I felt like I was doing something or I wasn't doing enough,
while leaving the arteries free to do their thing and maintain the erection. All right, let's get into things. ED is a spectrum disorder, meaning some men have problems getting it up, others have problems keeping it up. Some experience it frequently, while for others, it's just once in a while. Some men suffer from psychological ED, but most is from physical ED. And no matter where you fall on the spectrum, please know that you are not alone. As a matter of fact, 47 million men in the US alone have experiences with erectile dysfunction. That is why when the founders of Giddy, a new FDA Class 2 medical device developed by urologists and engineers to effectively treat ED, reached out to me to say, hey, can you start this conversation with your community? I didn't just say yes, I said hell yes. And furthermore, it was crucial that my community did not just listen to this information, but I wanted them to be heard. But before we dive back into that conversation, I want to give all of you a little crash course on why some dicks don't get or stay hard. All right, so this is a cross-section view of the penis. That right there is the deep dorsal vein. Then you have the arteries, corpora cavernosa, and the urethra. Okay, so this is what the penis looks like when it's erect. The arteries dilate, pushing blood all up in the penis, which makes the corpora cavernosa fill up. The deep dorsal vein then compresses, but it leaves the urethra open for ejaculation. Problems in achieving or maintaining an erection are often caused by insufficient blood flow into the penis, meaning the arteries aren't pumping enough blood in, or too much blood flow out of the penis, meaning the veins aren't compressing enough so blood seeps out. So that is how erectile dysfunction happens. And up next, I asked the group why it happens.
I think pressure from the partner can play a big role in it, especially if it's something that's happened before. If your partner doesn't know really the proper way to respond and is kind of a dick about it, no pun intended, then it can kind of, I think, make it into a recurring problem.
Yeah, there's physical things, whether it's, diabetes, I think Parkinson's was one of them. There might be a physiological block. If the prostate's enlarged, that can block blood flow.
I think also it can be like a mental thing where you might have an experience while you're having sex with someone where you get embarrassed or you get humiliated in some way because you can't perform well. And then the next time you have an experience like that with another person, you have a hard time getting it up, which I think is like another branch of erectile dysfunction besides it being chronic or medical.
So ED begots ED.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It gets in the way of itself. If it happens and it's not for an actual medical reason, it's an emotional reason, a psychological reason. And then, if it happens again, then, you go into a new relationship with that in the back of your mind as a guy. And you're like, oh man, is it, I'm really into this girl, but am I going to be able to perform because I had that problem last time? Even if it was just one time, it's in the back of your mind. And so then if it does crop up and you're not able to communicate with the person about that, then it makes it really awkward, and then that exacerbates the problem.
And sometimes the issue is mental, where you're not really attracted to that person. And it may not just be a physical attraction. You may be physically attracted to them, but there's something else about them that's just it's not there.
What I thought was really fascinating about that discussion is that whenever we bring up ED, it's usually the mental causes that get so much attention, but statistically, it's only 10 to 20% of ED that is caused by the mental. The other 80 is physical. And so I put together a list of different physical causes for erectile dysfunction. You've got certain prescription medications, obesity, clogged blood vessels, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, tobacco use, alcoholism, and other forms of substance abuse, sleep disorders, an enlarged prostate, surgeries or injuries that affect the pelvic area or spinal cord, and ED can be the side effect of several other health conditions like diabetes or heart disease. All right, so at this point, we have covered what is erectile dysfunction, why does it happen, and now I want to talk about how it makes those struggling with it feel.
I think as a man, it's kind of like a test to your manhood. It's like every time I'm about to like go in the bedroom and perform, it's like, am I gonna pass or am I gonna fail? You know?
Biologically, I'm made to perform, to have a penis, to get erect, and if you can't do that, it's like it makes me feel more like diminished, makes me feel less of a man, and gives me performance anxiety, you know, things like that. So it really does matter. I think it does, at least to me personally. And also like being coming from a culture, I'm Mexican, so coming from that kind of culture, it's very machismo or, you know, macho, things like that. So it's even more, you have even more pressure on your shoulders to perform well and to do well. Otherwise, like everyone's gonna know, and like, you know, and people look at you differently just because you can't do a certain activity. So in my eyes and in my family and my friends, it does matter to me a lot.
Does that flash in your mind? Everyone's going to know, like that literal sentence.
Yeah, because like it's so because like it's mentioned so much, and like I hear stories about like other men who are like in their 40s, like who have issues with that in my family, and they you know, they roast them like to the point where it's like, Jesus, like I don't want to be in their position because like that many people are talking about it.
I mean, I mention it in conversation, and it's either like, oh, it becomes like an understanding, like, oh yeah, and then we share experiences about what happened, or it can go the reverse, where you mentioned before, where it's like you get made fun of and teased about and joked around with, and then it like internally represses them and causes more of an issue down the road, I think.
There's definitely more performance anxiety for me, just because, like I said before, the standards are held way higher, and you have to be more dominant. I think gay culture, like that's how it works. You know, tops, bottoms, blah blah blah. Whoever's the top is very dominant, and whoever's the bottom is very submissive, and you have to take control of the situation if you're a top. So there's even more pressure on men to perform even better, or to do what, you know, you're supposed to do.
As men, we're fixers, we're doers, and we're like, I can conquer this. And when it's your own body that you're trying to conquer in the moment, it's like what you said, it's like you're really working at it. And like, you know, when it happened to me when I was younger, that was my immediate response. But now that I'm older, I know that it's like, okay, you know, take a step back, be about the intimacy. And I have the wisdom of what is masculinity. And it's my mind and my heart and my soul. It's, you know, it's less tied to that physical action. Now,
on the flip side of the coin, 28 million women and 4 million men are currently in a relationship with someone who suffers from erectile dysfunction. And unfortunately, 75% of women blame themselves for it. So I thought it was crucial to ask people who have sex with men how ED has made them feel.
When I first started dating my partner about like 2.5 years ago, that was an issue that came up. Like he was in school, so like there's a lot on his mind, and when it came time for us to do things and he wasn't like hard, or he like couldn't stay hard, it was like I felt like I was doing something or I wasn't doing enough, and I had to work to detach myself from that, to not bring so much guilt and so much stress towards him, because he checks his masculinity, but at the same time, it's like, you know, you do still feel hurt in an intimate situation. I've grown to not take those things as seriously, and I've also just advocate for different ways of having sex too. Like, it's not like just about your penis.
I think a lot of men forget about that too. The fact that we don't need like penetration to enjoy it, because I know a lot of the men were saying earlier, like, oh, you know, you want to perform, you want to satisfy, and there's so many other ways. If you're sleeping with a woman, I mean, even if you're sleeping with another man, you know, you can stimulate someone else without using your penis, and still satisfy them and still meet that goal. I wish it wasn't such a heavy importance on that, on like if you can get a guy hard, but it does kind of feel like that's how you know that they're like into you.
I think the worst thing they could do is try and put the pressure on to fix it right now.
Mm.
Like, or it's like, oh, if it's not fixed in the next 10 minutes, then they put the blame on them, and they verbalize that it's their fault, and you're like, no, it's not your fault. There's nothing to do with you. I don't even know. Most times, or like when this happened to me a few times, I didn't even necessarily understand the reason why. I was just not able to get aroused. But the pressure that was then put on me to essentially try and make this thing happen was unsurmountable.
I think also building on that, just not judging it. Like you mentioned, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? You know, we have that inner judge in our mind, or that critic that wants to judge and analyze and figure it out. But that's like exactly what you don't want to do in that moment. Like you said, you just need to take a moment, maybe internalize, like, okay, what's your motivation behind this? Reset, take a couple of deep breaths, and then revisit it. And then, like you mentioned, your rhythms will sync back up eventually, because it could have been so many different other factors that had nothing to do with either one of you.
I think it's really important for them to just communicate, like, and to let them know, like, hey, something's going on, or I'm just not in the right headspace, or can we take a minute? Because really their reaction, like the person who is experiencing it, I feel like it's on both, but their reaction can kind of turn it one way or another. I've had an experience where it happened to someone and it was our first time having sex, and they just kept trying to make it happen. And like I was the one that was like, you know, do you want to stop? Like we can take a break. And they got mad. They're like, stop asking me if I want to stop, and that's just like turning me off. And I'm like, well, all of this is turning me off right now. So because you're throwing a tantrum, and it was just super uncomfortable for them to have reacted that way. And I knew that it came from embarrassment. Like I knew that I wasn't looking down on them for it. And if the girl is, you know, a compassionate person and the type of person that you want to be having sex with, they won't make you feel like shit about it, or they shouldn't. If they do, don't have sex with them, because that's just trash. Like.
Until now, ED has been a couple's problem with the guy's solution, meaning if the dude in the relationship suffering from erectile dysfunction did not want to go to the doctor, there was nothing their partner could do about that. Well, Giddy is trying to fix this because it is non-prescription, meaning anyone can bring it into the bedroom and start that discussion. You know what? Let's go on ahead and start the discussion about Giddy right now. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Shan, isn't Giddy just a standard cock ring? And the answer to that question is nope. Penises aren't round, so neither is Giddy. It fits to naturally mimic the pressure that occurs in a natural erection. Giddy applies pressure to the dorsal vein and allows blood to enter the corpora cavernosa while leaving the arteries free to do their thing and maintain the erection. Also, unlike a standard ring, Giddy leaves the urethra unencumbered so that ejaculation is pleasurable business as usual. In short, Giddy is an effective treatment of ED that, unlike other forms, does not leave you with any side effects. You only gotta buy one, so you don't gotta break the bank. And finally, you do not need a prescription to get it. All you need is access to the internet. Hold on a second, because you guys know I love me a deal, and Giddy would like to extend a special promo offer of $99, which is 40% off, by clicking on the link below. Clearly, I am sold, so I asked the group if they would feel comfortable or compelled to use a product like Giddy in their sex lives.
If you have issues with that and you're offering a solution, I'm sure your partner should understand, or at least make a compromise to agree with having the horseshoe or the Giddy.
I think the biggest thing with that is just having an open mind, like being willing to try something new.
Yeah.
Which I'm always open for,
Yeah.
but it has to be mutual. And I think communication is key when it comes to a new experience. But also, if you're with a partner for a while, that's kind of like one of the secrets to success, right? It's like figuring out new ways, new things to try to keep it new and fresh and exciting.
I think you could just be like, well, let's break out some toys. And one for you, one for me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we both get to have fun here, but
Right.
I'm gonna try this new one on. And I think that mentality where you're playing together is way more fun than like, let's have earth-shattering sex right now. You can get there, but with that being the end goal every time, it's too much pressure.
Yo, thank you so much to the group just for sharing, for your truth, for your compassion, and in spirit of what they have done in this video, I implore all of you to start the discussion down below in the comment section. I want to hear from you. What do you know about ED? What experiences have you had about ED? And above all else, what is the most important thing that you wish the public knew about erectile dysfunction?
Erectile dysfunction is a normal part of life and should be discussed and respected like any other emotion that humans goes through.
And whether you're going through it yourself or you know someone who is, it's important to be compassionate for that person and understand that that might not be happening to you, but it could happen to you. So having that compassion is important because you could be put in that situation.
I would say for if you're experiencing erectile dysfunction, check with yourself before anything else. Because in this situation you're in, are you comfortable? Do you know your relationship with the other person and like how you interact? Just make sure that you try and check with yourself. Give yourself that opportunity to take your time. Don't rush it, and just live in that space.
Erectile dysfunction is not anybody's fault, and it's nothing that you should feel bad about. Just take a deep breath, communicate with your partner, and figure out how you want to keep going from there. Whether you want to take a break, stop, it's all good. You'll be okay.
Erectile dysfunction shouldn't be taken lightly or like brushed under the rug, because if you're having issues with that, you should definitely look into why and put yourself kind of in that third perspective of yourself and your partner, and try to pinpoint what the issue is.
Erectile dysfunction has nothing to do with you proving how much of a man you are.
Erectile dysfunction, it happens to the best of us. So there's a lot of tools and pharmaceuticals to help you with that. It's not going to be a life sentence. You can get up out of it.
You can get up out of it. I think that's a bomb way to end it. That's so good. Thank you.